$2 trillion over the next 20 years. That new Congressional Budget Office analysis far exceeds the $175 billion the president suggested last year. The system, inspired by Israel's Iron Dome, aims to detect and intercept missiles at all stages of an attack. Congress has already approved about $24 billion for the initiative. Bob Agnew reporting.
A judge has ruled that Tiger Woods' prescription drug records will be handed over to prosecutors following his March arrest in Florida on suspicion of driving under the influence. The agreement followed a 4-minute hearing between Woods' defense attorney and prosecutors. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters.
Alex Mueller, the Trump-endorsed conservative for Congress. President Trump calls Mueller an America First patriot with the wisdom and courage to defend our country, like she did as a combat-decorated Army officer. Raised to serve, trained to lead, proven when it matters most. Alex Mueller knows jobs, energy, innovation, and American dominance. She'll help Trump keep our streets safe and our border secure. That's why President Trump backs Alex with his complete and total endorsement.
My complete and total endorsement.
Alex Mueller, the battle-tested conservative Texas needs. On May 26th, vote Trump-endorsed Alex Mueller for Congress. Win It Back PAC is responsible for the content of this ad. Paid for by Win It Back PAC. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. WinItBackPAC.com.
Dan Patrick for my friend Lewis.
You're listening to the Voice of Texas, AM 700 KSEV Tomball and AM 1540 KGBC Galveston.
Hi, Dan Patrick. After 38 years on air, our signal pattern has changed. We cover a much larger area in many counties, but less in others. So if you can't pick us up on AM 700 or the signal is not as clear as it used to be, then tune to AM 1540. Whether it's AM 700, whether it's AM 1540 or KSEVradio.com or on our app, you'll still hear the voice of Texas where you live, work, and travel. Thanks for listening to AM 700 and AM 1540, the voice of Texas. Dan Patrick for my friend Lewis Flory and Ability Tree Experts.
Spring is here and summer just around the corner, which means it's time to deep root fertilize your trees in addition to spraying for insects and disease. Let Ability Trees help maintain their value and repair all damage. Fed and prune tree will be less susceptible to wind damage and uprooting. Caring for the beautiful and valuable trees on your property that you can't replace should be done by experts. And the experts I use, it's very clear. It's Ability Tree Experts and Lewis Flory, my friend
For over 40 years.
Gosh, this guy is the pro when it comes to taking care of trees. You know, pruning is important for the health of your trees. And pruning limits resistance to spring storms and allows the sun and fresh air into the canopy. Trees can be in distress several months without showing any signs. So don't wait to protect your investment at 281-441-4179, 281-441-4179, or visit their website at abilitytrees.com. Right now, Ability Trees is giving a deep root feeding with every tree pruned. Ability Trees, Houston's leading tree care professional.
Where should I begin?
Can we talk about this?
Say, what are you trying to say?
Beyond the usual controversial talk.
Blah, 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 on and on and on.
Over there,
One, two, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Prepare yourself.
Okay.
For Craig.
Okay.
Preparing a mighty new spectacle here.
Articulate, stimulating, hit you right in the, there you go.
We start becoming a team right now.
This is the Craig Collins Show.
Lord Jesus, oh Lord, no.
Start talking. Talk fast.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now your host,
He's a good man.
Craig.
That's right. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. A whole lot of stuff out there to talk about. A lot of things that we are going to get to throughout the entire show. I hear some weird buzzing happening right now, so I'm curious kind of what's causing that to be a thing that's occurring, and we'll try to figure that out as we go here. Lots of stuff to do. All right, let's try to play some audio, and hopefully it all works okay. But we have President Trump just before he got on a plane to fly to China to have a conversation with the Chinese, with Xi Jinping, about a lot of the things that we would like President Trump to be talking to Xi Jinping about. Here's a little bit of that conversation.
They will
not have a nuclear weapon.
All right, hold on. Actually, before we get there, this was him actually talking about Iran, heading off to China. He did mention at some point that he doesn't think we need any sort of help from Iran to get some things done. But let's go ahead and play this audio first of him responding to a question about what happens with Iran right before you get on this point.
Not have a nuclear weapon. They will not have a nuclear weapon. They know that. They've agreed to that. And then that's not what they said to me when it came to pay. We don't play games. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
We're not doing it. We're not doing it. We don't care. It's not going to happen. We're not okay with anything they've been talking about or saying on them, which is not on us to try to claim that they're going to have a thing that we're not okay with them trying to have. That's an obvious, easy way to talk about, I think, what's a pretty important issue. There were other things in the world of this discussion, though, as I said a second ago, and some of the ways that I think President Trump is going to handle his conversation with Xi Jinping, including whether or not we need them as people that are going to help us, that are going to assist us in this conflict. Let's play this audio as well.
Do you think he needs to intervene at all with the Iranians?
I don't
Do you think he can help in any way?
No, I don't think we need any help with Iran. We'll win it one way or the other. We'll win it peacefully or otherwise. Their Navy's gone. Their Air Force is gone. Every single element of their war machine is gone. They've killed a lot of people. They've killed 42,000 people at least over the last month and a half. We win.
We win. I think I'll say it again because it bears repeating. President Trump continues to mention the humanitarian crisis that is going on in Iran, the amount of civilians that they kill, that their military just murders, and hoping that maybe some people on the left, people who want to decide with organizations like Hamas, instead of, the non-terrorists in that fight, hoping that this might actually land, that there might be a way to see one conflict and another conflict through a similar lens. I don't think they're actually the same. I just think it's interesting that he keeps referencing the amount of loss of life that's occurred there. Let's play this audio, too. Would you send the National Guard in to protect midterm election voting? It's a really quick clip. I do want to play it because the person asking the question, even though this wasn't the piece of audio where Trump just berated someone for being a stupid person, I do have that, too. But the intention of this question is to try to scare people into thinking that President Trump will somehow militarily control our election in a negative way, like rig it for himself sort of thing. There's been ongoing discussion pretending this is a reality. Let's play this real quick.
Would you send the National Guard or ICE to voting locations in November? Would you do that?
Well, you know what? I'd do anything necessary to make sure we have honest elections.
All right, that one's kind of hard to hear, even without any sort of buzzing that might be happening on the audio equipment that we're using, too. I don't know what goes on. I'm going to be honest real quick. I leave the studio the same every day, and I come in and there feels like there's new problems that exist within the studio that weren't there the other day. I don't even think it's KSEV Radio's fault. I don't know what happens. I don't know what occurs that causes some of any issues if you might be hearing them. My mother did tell me it's not going so bad on some of the platforms out there. But anyway, that audio is hard to hear regardless. President Trump does say in that back and forth, though, and I think this is probably the most important part about it, is he'll do anything to secure the election. There's a whole lot of people that want to pretend as though one version of that discussion is wrong and another version of that discussion is totally fine, and it's all politically motivated. When the reality is all of us should care that our election is secured all the time by either party, so the real people that we want to vote in win. Like, this should be a universal bipartisan issue, and it's not. Occasionally, if Hillary Clinton claims the 2016 election is stolen, a lot of media address and talk about that topic. But then if Trump does it in 2020, everybody says, shut up. How dare you speak ridiculous and crazy things that can't possibly be true. It's so odd to see that so very often being a thing that we have to deal with in this society. Let's also play this. I thought this was interesting. This is I'm saying the word interesting a lot. This is a Fox News report live from Tel Aviv in Israel. The UAE is now going to have bolstered defenses going to be provided to them by Israel. So here, let's play a little bit of this and see what people think of that development. Trump is saying we don't need friends. We can win the fight with Iran alone. But the UAE having a unique amount of interest in making sure that they secure the Strait of Hormuz for themselves. They're on the other side of it, makes them a viable member of this conflict. Here we go.
From Tel Aviv, even with a faltering ceasefire in place, the risk of some Arab states, or Gulf states, I should say, launching direct attacks on Iran is on the rise tonight. We do know that the United Arab Emirates launched a secret attack on Iran back in April in retaliation for an attack on its facilities. And yes, we also know now for sure that Israel sent Iron Dome batteries and personnel to improve the Emirates' defenses. Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, says it's all thanks to the Abraham Accords. Take a listen.
Israel just sent them Iron Dome batteries and personnel to help operate them. How come? Because there's an extraordinary relationship between the UAE and Israel based on the Abraham Accords.
Yeah.
The Accords were signed
by the way,
in
I'll go ahead and stop it there, actually. That's verbatim what you teased us with. He then said the thing that you said he was going to say. Sometimes it might be good to tease with other stuff and then have some sort of new idea introduced. But nonetheless, I'm not going to criticize how they use their audio. I just think it's really interesting that we're seeing an expansion of this conflict in some of the more reasonable and expected ways, with the UAE becoming involved and with Israel helping them out in that process. And the obvious thing that a lot of people may be thinking seems to be the reality that we will inevitably face. More and more organizations, countries, leaders will decide that Iran is a power they can no longer tolerate. This is very different than what Ukraine was asking for against Russia, because no one else came to the forefront to fight. I think we might see more of this. And even though Trump says we don't need China, we're not asking for any help from China, I think behind the scenes, there might be a different form of conversation. We got
Professor Craig.
Hey, Jimmy X, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing outstanding, and I did get a chance to listen to yesterday's show, and want to say that I humbly and gratefully accept your offer to co-host one of the veteran shows.
Yeah.
I am super excited about that, bringing a little veteran insight. I have been fortunate for the last 3 years to lead my company's veterans employee resource group. So,
nice.
Little familiar with show and tell and asking questions on air.
Here, I want to explain it to you, too, if you don't know, because I don't think you caught the original show where someone suggested it. I was told by a listener that the Amigos had offered to let you sit in, I think, for the judge at some point, and you seemed fairly excited about it. And then the listener said he was disappointed because it never happened. So the Amigos screwed up. They did not actually give you the thing that they claimed to give you. And so it must have been a show last week that I made the announcement the first time, and then I did do it again yesterday. You are more than welcome. And it doesn't have to be the Veteran Friday show, but you're more than welcome to co-host the show. I'd love to make good on the thing that the Amigos screwed up first, but I also think that you'd be uniquely great to hear from in the world of the veteran segment. I actually used to have a local veteran as a co-host of that segment when I did it elsewhere every single week. So you seem like the right option there because, of course, you are a veteran and you're tied to a bunch of the causes. And you've also been suggesting a bunch of the guests that I've been having on. So, like, you're deeply involved in this sort of already that maybe it just makes sense, man. But I was really interested that the Amigos said they'd let you host, and then they didn't actually do it. And I don't know why.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do, Greg. And your show has really helped fill that 6 to 7 hour, 6 o'clock hour void.
Thanks, man.
And your technology and your get up and go that you brought to the station has really transformed KSEV literally into the modern age. You know, with all the different platforms you're posting the show and bringing the video aspect in. It's really cool, man.
Thank you.
And I think it's helping to broaden the audience of KSEV.
Sure.
And I'm a long time listener and long time caller.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, Barton Spring called in yesterday. We were talking about something else, and another caller had called in to mention stuff. And it just became apparent to me that there's so many people in this community that are such longtime fans of this radio station. Maybe it's Dan Patrick, and when he was here, I don't know what caused that initial thing, but it just seems like the same with like some sports teams that we all love. A lot of people who listen to radio in this market love KSEV. So how long have you been listening? Do you know how many years you've been a KSEV listener?
Yeah, it goes back at least 10 years. I've been listening to, before Chris X had his show, I was listening, and they've had a couple of different hosts come on in that time slot. Chris X, fantastic, and I hope you're listening, Chris X, because you are a great, great, great host.
Yes, he is.
And but no, it's been a long time. But do want to make just a really quick comment,
Sure.
about today's show, and I just want people to really kind of close their eyes and understand the world that we live in, that Donald Trump has helped usher in here.
Yeah.
When you have Israel sending its own defense assets over to a predominantly Muslim country, a very hard-line Muslim country like the UAE, that's a different world we live in today than we did pre-2016.
Correct.
And so people need to comprehend that. That is really big.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it is, the catalyst does appear to be Trump, that he is someone who will work with anyone, first and foremost. This is something that some people take shots at him for when he's willing to get on the phone with you name the person in charge of whatever. But I feel like some people are taking his lead there in showing that, my assumed enemy can actually be my friend if they wind up working toward the same thing I want. And I think that's the lesson that Israel certainly is learning, that UAE is learning, and a lot of other people are learning. And hopefully it dismantles the ability for Iran to ever be an actual global threat, which also appears to be the case. Not only have we decimated them in the near future, it seems as though this type of effort will decimate them long term, which is worth the high gas prices. I'd say that too.
The Islamic revolution that was ushered in was not something that all Muslims gravitated toward. And it created Iran as the most hated country in the Middle East.
Yes.
Let's not forget that 10-year war they fought with Iraq, okay? The Iranian, and not the Persians, okay, but the Islamic Iranians are disliked throughout the Middle East. And so thank you, President Trump. Thank you, Abraham Accord. And one last quick comment. I haven't read the Book of Enoch. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about these missing books of the Bible. But I'm definitely going to go read that Book of Enoch. So.
I can actually say something about the Book of Enoch, and I think that this might be important to a lot of the listeners out there. I'm messing with my audio, so if people are hearing something bouncing in and out, I apologize. One of the biggest reasons that it's not actually in the current version of the Bible, I heard Chris X say that there's no reason for it. There is. When it was written and who they attributed to writing it doesn't make any sense from a timeline perspective, which means a lot of people think it's not actually an inspired book. Even though it's attributed to Enoch, who would be a descendant of people that are important in the world of the Bible, to say it simplistically, the time frame in which it was actually created means it couldn't possibly have been those individuals or that individual who wrote it, which means a lot of people would doubt the authenticity of it. There's actually a quote in another thing that's in the Bible that comes from the Book of Enoch, which people literally usually say as an example. This is a weird, I don't know why I'm doing this, Jimmy, but it happened. You brought it up. I'm doing it. There's one quote from, I think it's the first chapter of Enoch in a different part of the Bible. And people say that that's a demonstration that people of the time actually believed it was legitimate. The Bible quotes a whole lot of stuff that's not in the Bible. That is not a unique thing. They use some information from all different kinds of texts occasionally. It still doesn't mean that those other books are actually inspired the way that the Bible itself is believed to be inspired. So I think it's appropriate the Book of Enoch isn't in there, and I don't think it's because it's weird. I think it's because it claimed to be written by people who couldn't possibly have written it, to say it simplistically.
Gotcha. Well, as a Catholic, there are 5 books of the that we have as part of our New Testament and Old Testament
Yes.
that the Protestants don't. I'm sure you're very familiar with that part of it.
Yep.
But anyway, Craig, great show. Always enjoy chatting with you, and super excited about coordinating.
Awesome.
And I'm super excited, man. I love KSEV, and the mission and just the ability for allowing just ordinary guys like myself to be able to express our views.
Yes.
And over the airways, and that's a unique thing that talk radio brings, and we can't take it for granted. That's for sure.
Amen to that, man. And we can't take anything for granted. That's why everybody has to show up and vote in midterm elections and runoff elections and everything. Thank you so much, man, for calling in.
God bless you, brother. All right, Craig. Talk to you soon.
And you know what's really cool about something that Jimmy X says there about not taking stuff for granted? I will say this in a little bit of a different way. Being someone who was living in a different state than Texas and coming to Texas as a conservative and thinking, hey, man, that means a lot of the stuff I believe will already be reflected in the politicians who represent us. No. You can't take that for granted. You can't assume that that's true. You do actually have to go the extra step to make sure the right people are in positions of power and not the people who claim to be Republicans but are Republican in name only. And sadly, I see that there are those individuals that are quite a few members of this party in this state who wind up behaving a certain way that you don't want them to. John Cornyn, the easiest name among them, but not alone. And so I've heard other callers say this on other radio shows at KSEV, that there's a lot of Republican politicians, and I've heard our hosts say it too, that don't live up to the moniker. It is disappointing to be someone who comes from somewhere else, to find that to be true, because it's so profoundly true. Other places like Texas, still better than any other place I've ever lived in my life. Still thrilled to be here right now. But there's work to be done. So don't take things for granted. Seems like a really great message before we take our first break. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. I'm going to mess with some technical things as best I can to try to remove what I hear as a bit of a buzzing sound. But quick break, a lot more. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas.
Where we go in life matters, and what we do matters. And we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes. Live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source. And these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
Hi, I'm Tommy Mello with Garage Door Doctors. My mom recently moved into a new home with a builder-grade garage door. Noisy, flimsy, and not built to last, so we're fixing that. Mom, you're my hero. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs just to save our house.
And helped you build this company.
Now I'm giving her a beautiful new garage door that's built to last. The garage is 40% of your home's curb appeal. When it looks good and it works great.
Life is good. Thanks, Tommy.
From repairs to upgrades, call Garage Door Doctor today.
This is Kevin O'Hara with O'Hara & Company Real Estate. Our country's founding fathers drafted a document that is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. My friends at O'Hara & Company Real Estate, we believe we're at a precipice in time where we must take back our country. We must stand up for our freedoms or lose them forever. Please don't sit idle and let it slip away. Don't let anyone force you to do something you choose not to. As JFK said, if not us, who? If not now, when? If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, give O'Hare & Company Real Estate a call at 281-373-3393, 281-373-3393, or look us up on the web at o'harare.com. I'm Kevin O'Hara. God bless America, and God bless Texas.
According to the Department of Justice, Eileen Wong and her former fiancé ran a fake website from 2020 to 2022. They published articles at the direction of the Chinese government. Here's an example from Wong's plea agreement in which she instructed to share a story denying the existence of genocide and forced labor camps inside China. A 2023 report looked into the scope of Chinese espionage in the United States, with a significant spike in recent years. Last month, the FBI also gave insight into China's nefarious tactics.
You know what? Actually, I'll stop it there. This is the Craig Collins Show. I'm going to play a little bit more of that in a second. KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. This is a big news story, and it's not necessarily being heard enough places to reflect the fact that it's a big news story. But the amount of influence that China tries to have here in the United States, you remember the balloons that randomly were flying and then Biden refused to shoot down. And then when he inevitably did shoot them down, he shot them down over a body of water that mean we lost them, which was profoundly stupid, the way that was handled. But these attempts to influence our society are growing. And there's even a mention, as I'll play in a second, of the amount of people who came in illegally when they heard that the border was wide open that were coming from China. A bunch of dudes who might have had connections to the Chinese military. This is why this stuff matters. I'm not trying to racistly keep someone who wants to go through the correct process like my wife did from Mexico of coming in and being a part of our country. Mainstream media will tell you that, and left-leaning media will tell you that. That's not true. Wanting to close the border so people don't come in illegally actually is trying to prevent all the ways that terrible, horrible people or governments misuse and abuse that knowledge to do what could be profound harm to our country. Here's a little bit more of this discussion.
Very overt things to scare the rest of the community, and they recruit people to report within the community. So they're creating this Orwellian climate of fear where everyone is afraid to speak out.
So there are Chinese spies among us. Eileen Wong, admittedly one of them. All of this comes as President Trump is now headed to China today for a high-stakes summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
By the way, I do think that there's no coincidence here. I actually heard my cousin, his name is Vince Colonnese. He does our noon show. He is, in fact, a family member of mine. He does our noon show here every day till 1 o'clock, talking about this too and asking his producer a similar question. Does the timing of this probably match the fact that Trump's going to be over there sitting in front of a world leader saying, hey, stop spying on us so much? Yeah, I believe that it does. I believe that it easily could make sense that this is inevitably what we care most about. Not just the disrupting of, say, oil trade between certain countries and all the different other avenues to where people circumvent what we at sometimes need to use, our power or authority from an economic standpoint, sanctions and things, to motivate people to not do stuff we don't want them to do, wield our influence. They've found a way around that. We also need to stop people from trying to harm us from within. And it feels like there's a whole lot of that going on. And this is the latest version, the latest demonstration of how bad it's gotten and how asleep at the wheel other people have been to the threat that exists here. And so I think it's a really, really important thing that'll be coming up, I imagine, several times because, to state it one more time plainly, it can't possibly be an accident that this story breaks today and Trump was on a plane to China hours after it. I do also want to play one other thing about the Chinese meeting. Who President Trump chose to take with him. This is something that some media is covering, including Fox, and I think this says something about the way in which Marco Rubio has done an incredibly good job in a whole lot of situations. He's been put in front of world leaders before, and he seemed to knock that stuff out of the park. He's on the plane.
Of cabinet secretaries. I just got confirmed via a source that includes Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will also be here, the Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will be here, as well as the trade rep Jamieson Greer. Rubio, by the way, John and Sandra, coming is a big deal because you'll remember back in 2020, China actually sanctioned him and banned him. So this time they are waiving that so he can join the president.
That's nice. That's nice of them to waive the ban and sanctions and all the things they did to kind of say that they hated Rubio before in order to get him to be allowed to be a part of these meetings. I think that's also a really important and smart move by President Trump to do because it, to me, says out loud, we don't really care what rules you're going to set. We're going to be setting the rules of this meeting. We're going to be doing it our way. I doubt they really wanted Rubio to tag along China, and yet there he is. So I think this is, and that's a very subtle version of it, being tough on China, which is something that Trump often brags about being. All right, let's play some other audio out there. This is CNN. They're talking about the likelihood of Democrats not doing as well as some people thought they might do in the midterm election, at least in regards to the House. A lot of this is because of the successful changing of districts, gerrymandering, as it's called, in places like Texas that benefit Republicans, and the failure to do that for Democrats in some places like Virginia. Here's a little bit of the audio from CNN.
Surely that same poll would show Democrats with a big advantage in the race for Congress.
You would think, but I think this poll serves as a big-time reality check for Democrats, and that is, it ain't over yet, especially with the redistricting when we look ahead to the 2026 race for Congress. You would have thought that the Democrats' lead would expand on the generic congressional ballot. It didn't happen. Look, in March, Democrats were up by 6 points. Look at this now. Democrats are up by 3 points, and I want you to note the yellow lettering. No clear leader. It is within the margin of error. So despite...
All right, I already want to stop it right there, and I want to talk. This is the Craig Collins Show, as I said, and I think this audio is so easily missed by a lot of people because you have a bunch of pundits who will talk ad nauseum about polls. They'll talk about polling. They'll talk about people seem to be pushing this way, and it seems like everything's going to go this direction. And it's probably not going to be close, and there's going to be a tremendous win for one side, and they usually call it a wave, a red wave, a blue wave, whatever it is. The closer we actually get to midterm or presidential election years, the election itself, the more we always see this, the polls tightening, which basically means one thing to me and a lot of people out there. The polls mean nothing. They barely matter at all to a discussion about any of this because they never stay stagnant. Now, granted, some people could say that the parties use the polls to change their messaging, to successfully change the polls, meaning the fact that we know this information allows politicians to manipulate it and change it by the time we get to a midterm election. People say that. However, oftentimes you still see that not being an effective explanation to why polling, especially regarding Trump or people that say they support Trump, is so wildly inaccurate the whole time. It did not predict a bunch of polling Trump winning in 2016. A bunch of polling did not predict that Trump would win all the swing states in 2024. It just gets him wrong, and it gets his support wrong. And I think people who then run campaigns like MAGA Mays Middleton, where they say they're the most MAGA politician, or even Spencer Pratt. I know this is a local show here in Houston, Texas. Nationally, a lot of people are talking about the candidate running for office for mayor in Los Angeles, California, a former reality TV show guy, Spencer Pratt, and how great of a job he's doing in speaking to the people. And they're attacking him now, Democrats out there, and saying that he's like a baby Trump, like he's a MAGA guy. And it's so interesting to watch that be an attack some places and the calling card other places, because I think, and to get back to the topic I'm actually talking about, it's a big part of what changes the polling to make some people believe they're reading the tea leaves correctly and they know what's coming, and then they get it wildly wrong when it actually happens. But I just think it's fascinating that we're now in May and that a lot of people that care about this stuff have been telling you, me, anyone that will listen for a while how bad things could be. and that seems to not be true. And there's one other point to be made here, and I think that it's a really valuable one, a really necessary one. None of this should ever influence your desire or decision to vote. You should never be sitting back being told by anyone, anywhere, that things are going great. This is what Jimmy X said a second ago. And we don't need you at the polls. We don't need you at the ballots. You can sit this one out, because that's absolutely not true. And sometimes I do believe that the news media outlets, when they think they see some data that benefits them a lot, lie about that data too to make people think that it's more in jeopardy because they think that drums up more vote. So I do think sometimes they exaggerate the likelihood that something looks bad when the reality is it's really not all that bad, because it motivates you to go defend your side. I'm not letting you in on the lie, on the secret, to convince you not to show up again and vote. I want to repeat that. None of these things I'm saying are supposed to be like, all right, it's fine. Craig Collins on that radio station I tuned into said it's totally okay. I imagine you'd actually know KSEV and not me. That idiot who was on KSEV said it's okay. I didn't. I said the exact opposite. It's a terrible decision to not show up and vote. But I do think people manipulate the idea of polling, and that's part of the reason that it's always so wildly inaccurate. All right, a couple other things that I want to play before we take another break, and then we come back and we do some more lighthearted stuff. Kash Patel had an interesting back and forth, the FBI director, with Senator Chris Van Hollen. That's a Democrat out of Maryland. And this has gone very viral. I have like 2 minutes of this audio. I do want to play it because I do think that hypocrisy is bad. And it's so easy every day to wake up and find politicians who are acting hypocritical. But it's so fun when you find someone else doing the dirty work and outing the stupidity of some of these discussions, questions, talking points, whatever you want to call them. So here we go with this.
Multiple reports, including reporting by The Atlantic, have alleged episodes of excessive drinking, unexplained absences, and behavior that concern current and former FBI and DOJ officials. You have publicly denied those allegations and filed a defamation lawsuit. So today, as you testify before Congress, is it your testimony that those allegations are categorically false?
Unequivocally, categorically false.
Those allegations are categorically false.
Unequivocally, categorically false.
So there have been no occasions during your tenure when FBI personnel were unable to promptly reach you?
Absolutely not. You can ask my entire workforce. They hear from me at every single hour of the day, as do these great gentlemen here, as do the men and women of the interagency and state and local law enforcement and the White House.
And so there have been no occasions when your security detail had difficulty waking or locating you. Is that right?
Nope, it's a total farce. I don't even know where you get this stuff, but it doesn't make it credible because you say so.
I'm not saying it.
Okay, hold on. I love that part right there. I got to stop it right there, and we'll get back to this. I love Kash Patel being like, I don't care how many times you say it, and I don't care how much you pretend it's accurate. My statement to you, my sworn testimony that you can try to use to say that I somehow committed perjury, is that it's all a bunch of crap. And he seems to be annoyed that the questioning keeps coming because it feels performative. This is political performance, asking someone a question under oath because you want them to get you want the attention to surround the question itself and not the answers to the question.
Director Patel, it's been written and documented.
You are literally saying it.
No, I'm saying that these are reports, Director Patel.
No,
and
unlike your baseless reports, the only person that was slinging margaritas in El Salvador on the taxpayer dollar with a convicted gangbanging rapist was you.
You know,
the only person that ran up a $7,000 bar tab in Washington, D.C. at the lobby bar was you. So the only individual in this room that has been drinking on taxpayer dime during the day
polygraphing
you.
Director Patel, come on. These are
No. This is true. Everybody remembers. This is the politician who Kilmar Abrego Garcia, when he was locked up somewhere, Chris Van Hollen thought it made sense on the taxpayer dollar to go hang out with him and to get him a margarita, to get him a drink. These are all real things. Kash Patel is saying something that we have video evidence of. Unfortunately, it seems, for Van Hollen as well, we don't have any video evidence of the things he's accusing Kash Patel of. Let's let this go a little bit more. I thought it was
serious allegations that were made against you. There are a
allegations
lawsuit
are
that
false.
You filed.
You drinking margaritas with a gangbanger
actually,
true and on
it just
video.
goes to show you
running a $7,000 bar tab at the lobby bar has been filed by your own office.
This goes to show
drink during the day. That's you. This is the ultimate example of hypocrisy.
Mr. Chairman,
I will not be tarnished by baseless allegations
let me
and
ask
fraudulent
the
statements from
question.
the media.
The fact that you mentioned that
yeah, we're good. We're actually good now. I love every part of this, and I love the strength of coming at these things because, to be honest, as someone who's been doing this for a while now, I've been in radio almost 20 years. Surprising amount of the time, I've been in political radio too. I never meant to get into political radio. I just meant to show up at a radio station, any radio station, to talk about anything. I was totally fine if it was sports, if it was music. I was like, yeah, I just want to be on the radio. And more people gave me opportunities to say what I thought, which I like. And thank you to KSEV for being a place that's now doing that every day from 6 to 7 o'clock. I'm honored to be able to be on a station that Rush Limbaugh was on for as long as he was, as successfully as he was here. But here's the thing I'm going to say in response to all this. If you've been paying attention to politics for a while, you constantly see videos of politicians asking really dumb questions, really terribly baseless, unfounded, political attack style questions where they act like they're looking for answers. All they're saying is, I'm just asking you what I saw reported over here or what some anonymous person told me. It's something I need to get information on. And then the questions themselves become viral, essentially meaning that the answer, as I said a second ago, is irrelevant to the story, which is insane. That is and should always be insane. Not pretending that people who answer questions actually tell the truth a whole lot. They don't. But trying to ignore the answer to the degree that a lot of media outlets do so often, especially when it's a conservative or Republican who's being asked some of this stuff, it just shows you what the playbook is. The playbook is that they'd like to pretend that whatever they're curious about is fact, regardless of how even much they themselves believe it to be true, and that anyone that says it's not true, anytime that Trump rejects a thing claimed about him, you're supposed to believe that that's always a lie. It's ridiculous, and it's insane, and I just really, again, love the way that Kash Patel handled himself in trying to demonstrate the hypocrisy and stupidity of the line of questioning he was subject to. All right, we'll take one more break. I will come back from the break. This is KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. More in a bit.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-909-9696. 800-909-9696.
If you have roof problems, you can sure see them when it rains. This is Deb Tejada from Tejas Roofing. If you see a leak, call me immediately. 281-251-0304. I'll send over the Tejas Roof Repair truck.
That truck has everything our experienced crew needs to fix your roof, right then and there.
The Tejas Roofing crew has been working together fixing leaky roofs for 15 years.
It's not a pretty truck, but it has everything we need to get the job done. I kind of like the way it looks.
Most roofing repairs cost less than $500. Why? Because we find the cause of the leak and repair that leak. We won't try to sell you services you don't need.
And we'll fix it right away because everything we need is in our truck.
Don't put off fixing a leaky roof. Call me at Tejas Roofing and I'll send over the truck. 281-251-0304. When you think of roofing repairs or a new roof, think Tejas Roofing, your Houston roofing company. 281-251-0304. That's Tejas.
Now more than ever, Texas energy security is national security. That's why Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick have endorsed Jim Wright's re-election to Railroad Commissioner. Jim Wright understands how important Texas energy is to make sure we keep America first. Jim Wright is focused on making sure hostile foreign nations can never have direct ownership or indirect influence on Texas energy. And he's not stopping there. Jim Wright will keep radical militant Islamists out of Texas energy, protecting our infrastructure and our future. Look at Jim Wright's results. Record oil revenues topping $6 billion, fueling our economy. Jim Wright knows energy independence is national security, keeping Texas strong and America secure. He'll always stand firm for Texas. Jim Wright, protecting Texas energy, securing America's future. Re-elect Jim Wright for Railroad Commissioner. Election Day is May 26th. Political ad paid for by Texas Now PAC.
A breast cancer diagnosis can turn your world upside down. But your Houston Methodist team assures you they'll use the latest cancer research and technologies, collaborating to treat and remove the tumor and reconstruct your breasts, restoring symmetry, sensation, and your sense of self. That's the difference between practicing medicine and leading it for you. Houston Methodist, leading medicine.
Plumbing emergencies never happen at a convenient time. Usually they happen on the weekends, holidays, or while you're away on vacation. I'm Richard Sod, president of Nick's Plumbing. When you find yourself facing a plumbing emergency, call the licensed and experienced professionals at Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services. Nick's Plumbing has been Houston's first choice for all your plumbing needs since 1979. Our experts can take your most difficult plumbing issues and fix them fast, fix them right, and usually for less than you'd expect. Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services is the right choice for any plumbing job, from a leaky faucet, whole house repipe, or a complete sewer line replacement. You can count on Nick's Plumbing to do the job right. With over 40 years in business and over 150,000 satisfied customers, Nick's wants to be your plumbing company. Nick's Plumbing offers free estimates and free second opinions. Call Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services, 713-868-9907, or visit us on the web, nicksplumbing.com.
NPL 38548.
Call Nick's Plumbing today. We're on the way.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. A lot of stuff to talk about and very little time left with which to do it. We're going to do the quick four-ish segment to end the show. These are sillier things, more lighthearted things that I like to find at the end of talking about a whole lot of serious stuff, because you can't be serious all day long. You'd go crazy. Let's do this. A guy replaced engine oil with cheese. He then went viral on YouTube for doing this. The guy's name is Wade Nixon. He is a YouTuber under the series Garbage Time. He replaced his car engine oil with something that he shouldn't have put in there. Again, it was actually nacho cheese, and pretty much wrecked the engine right away. I'm going to play the audio because I'm amused at the stupidity of people doing stuff like this to get viral fame, and also what it sounds like when you make this decision that luckily no one else has to make. Because this moron did it, and who knows if he made enough money off the YouTube video to replace the car.
We're replacing the oil in a vehicle with cheese, and gourmet cheese. Check out this stuff. You know it's good because it's made in USA. Guaranteed to be mostly e-colorings and chemicals anyway.
Hey.
You need a spoon to heave it out, right? That manky looking cheese hole. Yeah, it's still yellow. That was the most smoke I'd ever seen coming out of an engine. That was epic. And then it cleared out the building quick too.
Yeah, I kind of hate this guy. I got to be honest. Even as I played that audio, I really hated a lot of things that he was. He crapped on the United States. I think he's Australian. He also, I don't know, crapped on nacho cheese, which is just wrong. But beyond that, to me, he wrecked his car, and then he acted like somehow it was shocking that when you put nacho cheese in a vehicle, you do bad things to the car. All right, some other things out there that are quick four-ish topics. Robot shoes might allow you to walk 3 times faster. This is according to the CEO of Shift Robotics. This would be like when you go to the airport and you walk on that little treadmill thing that allows you to walk faster, but you wear the shoes and you can go 6 miles per hour. I'm a fast walker. It drives my wife crazy because my wife does not walk as quickly as I do. I think I should get her these shoes, and then she would have to walk quicker. I don't think she'd like this, by the way. I think there's a bunch of reasons that she chooses to walk at the speed she walks at, and I occasionally bump into things. So I'm going to say that the wife is right and I'm wrong. But nonetheless, I want to play this just because I thought it was funny, and I immediately pictured the missus, my wife, wearing them to keep up with me because I like to walk fast, and I have to stop all the time to make sure I don't leave her in the dust because, darn it, that'd make me a horrible, terrible husband. But here we go.
I have always been excited, interested in personal mobility. But then I start asking myself why I never walked, even though walking is the safest way of getting around the cities. When you push off your toe, we need something that prevents you from slipping backwards. You have a very big push-off force to the ground. We will accelerate at the same time. But as soon as you release and you transition into, what we call control the fall, we stop giving you more, gas to continue acceleration.
Yeah, I got to be honest about this, especially with Trump now going to China, and I think this guy's out of Japan or China or somewhere, Shift Robotics. I would be amused if President Trump tried these out and what he thought of them. I don't think that he walks all that slowly, so I don't think he necessarily needs to use them. But I'm amused at the idea of this. I think the reality is probably terrible. I think the idea that if you walk around and suddenly your shoes push you to make you go faster, like they accelerate, they almost bounce. It's like the movie Flubber. For anyone that might remember that obscure Robin Williams movie that I remember as a kid, you put it in the shoe and the shoe bounced. This is their version of doing that through some AI technology. I can't imagine a lot of people will actually like it. And to be honest, there's one other take on this. It makes us even lazier as a society. If we make walking easier and somewhat robotic enhanced, then we're ruining walking. Then anyone, anywhere who understands what the value is of going on a walk has now destroyed a vast majority of the good you get out of that if the robot's going to do it for you. One final thing, I do like this too. A guy on social media was having fun getting revenge on spam callers. Some of his spamming the spammers calls went viral. You are told not to do this. A lot of people say this is a bad decision. It'll only cause more calls to go your way. I have done this before too. I've never recorded it. By and large, I've actually done it via text. When I get text crap things that you can tell are fraud, I usually respond back asking them for Bitcoin when they're usually doing it to me. I enjoy it. The wife thinks I'm stupid, I think, sometimes for that too. But here's spamming the spammers, a guy who went viral for reacting to spam calls the way a lot of us probably want to.
So I get all these spam calls. I've created a script. It's going to call them back. It's going to wait for them to answer. It's going to interact with the prompts automatically. And when they answer, it's going to play Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up.
I love the people laughing in the background.
See, what you don't know about this script, though, I have it on repeat. It's going to keep calling them back. This is so satisfying.
Okay, that's my favorite part of it, by the way. The Rickroll is a little old. People maybe still do it, but it's certainly not something we see as much anymore. But the guy who has an automated calling of the spammers to constantly Rickroll them every time they answer, by and large, it's actually computers who are making the calls, which is kind of scary. AI is performing the call and communicating with Rick Astley with the song in this place. So I don't know how much revenge you're actually getting, but at least you're getting some. That seems good to me in some way, some sort of thing out there. And then one final one for the quick 4-ish topics. Have you heard of the boomer bad news drop? This is something that social media has been talking about. I think Reddit put it out somewhere, and the Huffington Post put it out somewhere. Here's the question. Have you ever gotten a random text from someone older than you? In this case, they say a boomer, but typically I think it would be somebody's parents, with details about a horrible health issue. I think random text like, we're struggling with this, there's no explanation for this, whatever it is, with zero context, a sudden bad news message is now being called a, quote, boomer bad news drop. My take on this is not the same as everybody else's out there. The people who are criticizing your mother, your father, your uncle for sending you bad news without some sort of warning before it is actually probably a demonstration of how human life is supposed to go. And all the young people who are complaining about this, who are saying that they needed some sort of ramping up before they get the information that is the, quote, boomer bad news drop, just shows how much we've changed, how far we've gone from like basic communication skills being something that people need and have to what they have now. People are incapable of direct communication. A lot of people are, mostly young people, which makes a need to do a 10-minute text back and forth about the weather a thing that young people actually feel comfortable complaining about, or not even that young people complaining about because they don't want the bad news right away. I think we have to live in the land of reality and not the land of fairy tales and joke and fake stupidity, which feels like what this is. Complaining that someone that you know, a family member of yours who's older than you, that they give you bad news without, a few good news moments first, is just one of the dumber complaints I've seen in a while. All right, I waited till the end of the show on purpose. We only have a couple minutes left, but there is one other thing that I did want to talk about, quite a bit actually, but I didn't want to give myself a lot of time to do it because I think I'm going to get mad. The Roast of Kevin Hart was a Netflix special that I think aired on Sunday. It's been getting a lot of attention because of some of the very terrible, inappropriate types of jokes that some of the comedians on that show told. One of those jokes was at the expense of another comedian on stage and Charlie Kirk. It was a joke that made fun of someone while also making light of the murder of Charlie Kirk. And what I wanted to say about this topic, again, without getting mad, even though it does make me mad, is when comedians perform in front of other comedians, I think they abandon what most of us consider to be actual comedy. And instead they do this shock jock version of a thing that you used to see in radio with each other. They want to tell the most inappropriate joke they can from one comedian to another comedian because that will entertain them more than what the rest of us would consider actual comedy, actual jokes. There's a lot of things in there that just blatantly aren't funny. This is probably the best example within that Kevin Hart roast special. And I've seen some people defend it by saying it's a roast. Come on. Just be, less serious about this. Find a way to find these things funny. I don't know why you televise this, to be honest. Like, I don't know why you pretend that this is entertainment built for the everyday average American when it's obviously not, because it is wildly inappropriate. It's not the kind of thing that I thought was funny at all. And based on its merit, whether you say you're policing jokes by saying that people probably shouldn't make jokes like this, Pete Davidson, the comedian who told this joke, wrong for even doing it at all. The more important thing to me is that you realize what the function of this event is and how little they seem to care about the audience at all, and how much that should matter and doesn't matter in the world in which we currently live for a lot of these things. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. Maybe I'll talk about that more tomorrow because it truly made me very, very mad because it's just such an inappropriate joke. I'm not even going to tell you what they said. I don't want to do that. But all right, I'm out of here. See you guys tomorrow. Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas.
You're listening to the voice of Texas, AM 700 KSEV Tomball and AM 1540 KGBC Galveston.
Public and have a permanent end to the war. And all of this has just really become more and more shaky as time has gone on. We've seen the Americans blockade Iranian ports, stopping Iran from getting some of its oil out to market. And meanwhile, the Iranians themselves have maintained their chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting global energy supplies.
Correspondent John Gambrell reporting. Meanwhile, President Trump is en route